Hello Year 1 and welcome to your maths learning for today. It is Thursday the 25th of February 2021. So your retrieval, your recap of previous learned knowledge and understanding is, can you write your numbers to 40? So try and do this without looking, but this grid is here to support you. So maybe have a try at writing your numbers to 40 and then use this to double check yourself, to self-check. Okay, and then if you want to move on to numbers to 50 to challenge yourself further, then please do. Then if you could go on to your calendar, so your days of the week and your months of the year, remember that new question about what the season is and pause to do these. And then a recap of some learning from this week so we don't forget, because we've moved on to height now, so I don't want you to forget about length that we did at the beginning of the week. So just a few questions to prompt your thinking. What do you remember about length? What is length? What does it mean? What do we mean when we order the length of something, and how do we order the length of something? Okay, and then on the next slide, so pause here, share your ideas. I will tell you then what length is. So length is how long an object is. It is the measurement or extent of something from one end to the other, so from end to end. Okay. So moving on to what we are learning today, we are learning to measure height. So how can we be successful with this? So we need to know a bit about measuring, which hopefully we do from this week, and also we need to know what height is, so we can measure it correctly. Because remember, length is end to end, but we need to remember what height is, how we measure height. It's slightly different. So here's some questions for you. What do you know about height? So what can you remember from yesterday? What is height? What does height mean? What do we mean when we order the height of something, and how do we order the height of something? Very similar questions, but again, they're just there to prompt thinking. If you're not too sure what you want to say, then those questions might help you with your answer. And again, pause here, share your ideas, and then I can tell you on the next slide what that means. So here it is. Height is the measurement of someone or something from head to foot. So basically from top to bottom, from base to top, and standing upright. Okay, so this would be measuring the height of the bottle, and this would be measuring the length of the bottle. Okay, the same here. This would be the length. That would be the height. Okay, so it's just almost where you turn around which way it goes. So for a table, for instance, you'd measure how long it is end to end. If you're measuring the height, you would measure it from the chair legs to the table legs to the top of the table. So it have slightly different measurement from the length to the height. It might be a slightly different number. So how can we measure the height of something, and what could we use? Again, pause here, share some ideas, and then I'll show you and reveal some ideas. You might have come up with some different ones. So here are some examples: a meter stick, tape measure, bead string, a few different types of tape measures, ones that you can use to measure sort of around your waist for clothes and things. And then you've got the tape measures that are a bit more solid, a little bit bendy, but they're more for sort of building construction and measuring household things. And then you've got a ruler as well. So what is standard and non-standard measurement? Again, this is recapping, but this will support you. What do they mean, and what is the difference? Again, share your ideas, pause here to have a think or to talk about it, and then I can tell you a bit more on the next slide. So standard units of measurements are units of measurement that are typically used within each measure system. So it's just basically when we measure using something that everybody knows, it's known by everyone. So if we were to measure using inches, feet, centimeters, that would be the same if I was to measure it, if you was to measure it, but also if somebody in a different country was to measure it. So it's the same measurement, and it's accurate, and everybody understands it's the same. Okay, so standard units or standard measurement is what everybody uses, knows, and understands. Okay, and it's the same, it's accurate. So your kilograms, your pounds as well. So non-standard units of measurement, okay, are units of measurement that aren't typically used. So they're not really as well known. This means measuring with anything other than your standard measures. Okay, so you might measure with pencils. So how many pencils long something is, or how many pencils high, the heights using pencils. So I might measure myself with pencils, see how tall I am, rather than using, say, a meter stick or centimeters. Okay. An arm, shoe, hands, and manipulative, so it could be cubes, counters, or sweets or candy. Now, with this, it can vary. with your bead strings and your cubes, they'll probably be about the same size. However, if I was to use hands to measure how tall I was, this might be different amounts to if you used your hands, because your hands might be slightly smaller, or maybe one of your adults use their hands and they might be slightly bigger. So it might vary, and that means that how many hands tall I am might be different. So it's not as accurate, because I might be 15 hands tall using my hands, but then using your hands, I might be 20 hands tall. Okay? Or hands high. So do we measure everything with the same measuring equipment? So thinking about what the best method is. So to measure, say, me, what would be best to use? Would it be best to use a bead string? Would it be best to use a ruler, a meter stick, hands? Okay, so what would be the best thing to use? So here, what might you measure a pencil with? So a pencil, the height of a pencil, how tall it is, would it be a good idea to use hands? Or would it be better to use something else? Again, what might you measure a house with? Would it be a good idea to use pencils to measure the height of a house? Or cubes, or bead string, or hands? Is it good to use hands to measure the height of a house? So have a think about that, what you might measure different things with. And then remember, the important thing is that you can explain your reason. Explain why, so we can understand why you've chosen that, okay? Your reasoning behind your answer. So your activities today, there's a few here outlined for you. Very practical. So can you measure some objects using a standard measurement? So that's something like a tape measure, a meter stick, or a ruler, any of those ones that are here, okay? No, not there, sorry. So your meter stick, ruler, okay, they're your standard units. Then, once you have done that, think about, if you are using a ruler, which way does the ruler need to be to measure height? So think about which way are you going to be measuring your ruler, that way or using it measuring that way for height. That's really important that you get that the right way round. And think about where you're measuring on your ruler, but looking at the numbers and where you measure from. So you should be always starting, not at the end of your ruler, but where the number 0 is, okay? Then, once you've had a go with using standard measures, how can you try and measure some objects using non-standard measures? There's some examples here. The height of the pencil, okay, how many sweets tall is it? You might want to use hands, any other objects at home. So remember, be creative, use some different things at home. Remember, when you're measuring the height, it's from top to bottom, stood up, okay? Length is when it's flat, laying down, side to side, end to end, okay? So that's what we've already done. We're looking at the height. So from the bottom to the top, how tall something is, okay? So it says here, remember to count the items you use to measure to find the length or height of an object. So we're not finding the length today, we're finding the height, okay? So how tall something is. So count how many cubes high, how many sweets high, how many hands high. And remember to write this number down. So write how many centimetres or how many cubes or how many sweets. And it's really important, you have to put that measurement, whether it's cm for centimetres or whether it's cubes. Because if you just put 5 what? 5 pieces of spaghetti, 5 feet, 5 hands. So make sure that you put what the measurement is. So centimetres, cubes, sweets, cars, how many of those to measure the height? Tell me the measurement. And here again, cutting the strips of paper, can you measure the height of them? So how tall those pieces of paper are, so make sure they're the right way. Make sure they're lined up, okay? Then can you write down how tall or short they are in centimetres, cubes or beads, so remember to put the measurement. And then can you put the height order, looking at those numbers. Here are some examples that you can also use. So you can measure these, write the number and put them in height order. You can cut them up or you can just print them straight off. Again, completely up to you. There's another example here. And then we've got some other images here. So can you measure these? Which is tallest, which is shortest? So write the number, then can you write tallest, shortest on those and label them? And the same with these objects here. So we've got water bottles, you've got some glasses, some wardrobes and lamps. Again, measure them, write how many centimetres or whatever you use to measure, whatever's best to use. Remember to use the best way to measure those. And then label the tallest and the shortest. So think about these questions. How did you measure? Did you start them from the same point? Have you ordered them tallest to shortest, shortest to tallest? And why is it better to order them from the same point when measuring? Okay, so why would you line them up to measure the height? Why is that important? Then, as always, you have your fly high challenges here. So what are the disadvantages of measuring using non-standard units and why, to explain your thinking? Did mention that before, so you can always go back and have a little look to support you with answering that question. Can you compare the height of objects using the correct language? So the chair legs are shorter than the table legs. The chair legs are half the height of the table legs. So really comparing and using that language about taller, shorter, and the half of the height or double the height of. Okay, that's quite challenging. And then there's one more. So can you accurately estimate the height of objects before measuring them? So have a good guess is what that means. When you estimate, you have a good guess, and then you measure after and see how close you were. It's a bit of a good fun guessing game to see if you can get the same number, which I know some of the children enjoyed doing that today or the other day when they were measuring the length of something. So can you do the same, but this time with the height? Can you make an accurate estimate, an accurate guess, good guess? So plenaries, rounding up the learning from today. So tell me what you have learned about measuring, or tell somebody, an adult, write it down, speak about it, whatever's best for you, what you would like to do. How have you measured? What ways can you measure? What is the best way to measure? Does what you use to measure depend on the object you are measuring? Why? Explain your thinking. So really think about the why, okay? There's a lot there, I know. So take what you want from that, do as much as you can, and then share any of your learning that you choose to complete or any of those activities that you do with us on the parent support email. That way, your teachers can have a little look and reply to you and give you some support, some feedback, and then we can see how you were doing as well. Okay, good luck and enjoy. Happy measuring. And remember, we are learning to measure height.